Hello, sports fans, sports collectors, and all hobbyists. Welcome to the Card King Sports and Variety Show. I am your host, the Catman, Brian Cataquet, a.k.a. the Card King. We are streaming live on ABC's KMET 1490am.com. Your number one spot right here for news and talk on the West Coast. I thank everyone for tuning in this morning. On the telephone line, I welcome to the program outfielder for the 1977 to 79 Kansas City Royals. I welcome to the show, Joe Zdeb. Joe, great to have you.
Thanks a lot for having me.
My pleasure, Joe. And, I figure let's begin 1971. Obviously, a memorable year for you, Joe. Drafted fourth round by the Kansas City Royals and signing a contract. Doubting you had a future in pro football, as I understand. You were a really talented football player, but you chose baseball, right?
Yeah, I did. I figured if I was going to play professionally, that football is just, you can get hurt and all that. I grew up in Chicago where football is king, still is. And so that was number one sport for sure. I played baseball kind of as just a secondary sport. I enjoyed it. I liked baseball, but in Chicago, it's probably up. If you're in the Northeast, it's similar. Back then in high school baseball, if you played 18 games, you were lucky. That's not much, and half of those games were in in rain and cold conditions. So, and they didn't have all these summer teams, traveling teams, year-round teams. You played just a limited amount of baseball. And so I got drafted. I did well in baseball, and then I sat down, and 2 days after I graduated high school, I had to decide, okay, I had assigned a letter of intent to play football at Missouri. At that time, they were a top 10 team with Dan Devine, that kind of group. And decided, well, if I'm going to try to make it professionally, I think baseball is probably the better way to go, and I could always go back and get my schooling and stuff like that. And so a couple days after high school in June of 71, after graduation, I signed my contract with the Royals, flew out to Billings, Montana. That's the low minors for the Royals Rookie League. And one of the first guys I met was George Brett. He got drafted in the second round the same year, so I've known George Brett since we were like 5 days out of high school, long time. And an interesting story that very few people know is that I got drafted as a third baseman. Brett got drafted as a shortstop. So opening our first game in Caldwell, Idaho against Caldwell Cubs, I played third base and George played shortstop.
Really?
So, yep. They figured out not too long after that he didn't have the hands and it couldn't be a shortstop. So they moved him to third base and they kicked me out to the outfield.
Yeah, not many people know that. So Brett was originally a shortstop and you were the third baseman.
That's correct, out of high school. But, that always changes as the coaches get you and all that. So, So back to your original question, football was my first love, but baseball was the smarter choice.
Huh. So you go to the Billings Mustangs when you first stepped onto that minor league pro field. It must have been such an experience. I know it's a long time ago. Do you remember what were you feeling the first time you saw or stepped onto that minor league pro field?
Yeah, I was totally overmatched. Because once again, I didn't play that much baseball growing up in Chicago. For example, I talked to Brett. I said, yeah, we played like 18 games this year. He goes, oh, we just played at like 85. Growing up in El Segundo. So they were so much further advanced than me. And the other thing about our team is probably 90% of the guys were college graduates. There were only about 3 or 4 high school guys on the team at that time. So I was overmatched. I didn't do well at all that rookie season. And then I went to instructional league and, just kind of grinded and keep trying to get better and played winter ball and just trying to get games under my belt, at bats, working on things. our minor league hitting instructor was Charlie Lau. So he's the one, of course, that got hold of Brett and made him what he is. And Charlie worked with me a lot, helped me a lot. So, but to back, like I said, to the original question is no. When I got there, I was I was totally overmatched.
And Joe, you made a good point right now. So you and Brett at that time, I mean, you guys came out of high school. You were probably two of the youngest players on that organization.
Yeah, and the third high school player was Mark Littell.
Okay.
And Mark ended up getting the big leagues at the Royals and a couple other teams as a reliever.
Right.
So it was ironic that the three high school guys on that team made it. None of the other guys made it to the big league. So, so it was, we were young. We didn't know any better. Just get on the field and play, I guess.
And Joe, wasn't there an episode, I read about this, in which there was a scouting director made you cut your hair because it was so long at the time?
Yeah, it was actually, I think it was my AA coach in Jacksonville, Bill Scripture, who was a real character. And he was on my case to cut my hair. I had long hair, and, back then in the 70s, I had long hair, and he kept getting on my, he says, I told him, somebody picked it up, Sporting News or something, says, hey, if I cut my hair, I'm not going to be a better ball player. And I said, you're no Walter Alston either.
So they had you actually they made you cut your hair. I mean, were you pissed off at the time? This was like your introduction, huh? This was really like your.
I was starting to do well and be one of the better players. I started, finally improving, and by the time I was in AA, I was, one of the better players on the team, and so I had a little edge to me, and I played that way. And Pete Rose is my hero, so I played real hard and bowling over catchers, head first, spikes high, old school. What they don't do nowadays, nowadays it's changed quite a bit.
Well, so the 72 season begins with you being assigned to Kingsport of the Rookie Appalachian League. You had an excellent season that year, Joe. You hit .319 with 12 homers, 13 stolen bases. So I'm assuming the pitchers you faced at that season, 72, they weren't that competitive for you with a .319 batting average.
Well, once again, I by the time 72 ran around, I had 100 more games under my belt between Billings and then instructional league that fall, spring training, and broke camp. So I had a lot more at bats under my belt. So I was starting to feel it, starting to get better, and the coaches are working with you. So starting to get confidence. And so I don't know if the pitchers were any better. I think I just got better, and I had to. If I don't get better, you're gone. You're cut.
Of course, and it was that same time, 72, as you mentioned. You earned a reputation as being a hustling, hard-nosed player who emulated, as you mentioned, Pete Rose. You played like Pete Rose in 72.
Oh well, 72 all through 79, my whole career. Yeah,
yeah.
I remember one time it was kind of a rainy day in Kansas City. And when I walked, I sprinted to first base, and I threw my bat. I walked and threw my bat down, sprinted to first base. There's a stick on the AstroTurf in Kansas City, and I flipped the bat and it skipped into the dugout, and guys are like scrambling.
And when you played in 74 for San Jose, you really your stats were really impressive. There you recorded 67 RBIs, and you topped all regular batters on the team with almost a 300 batting average. Now, you played under Boris was the manager at San Jose Bees, right?
Yeah, Steve Boris.
Steve Boras. How was it playing for Steve Boras? Was he a good manager, good baseball mind?
Yeah, he was very good, and he ended up being the first base coach for the Royals when I broke in '77. So he knew me. I think he probably helped get me somewhat to the big leagues. You know, you hear reports, and you got scouting reports on minor league players, but I played for Steve for a whole season, so Steve knew me pretty well, knew my capabilities. So I'm sure he gave his scouting reports to Whitey Herzog and the powers to be when '77 came along, and I went to camp and made the team. But no, Steve was great. He was a real pro.
And that's what I wanted to ask you. So 3 seasons, I'm looking at these stats, 73 to 76, I believe. You hit 298, 376, 392 batting average. And then I'm assuming that's when the Royals brass must have been talking about we got to get Zdeb up. We got to get Zdeb up.
I think they had interest, but I was never their golden child. They always had, higher draft choices in drafts after me that they thought were going to be their next star outfielder. And one of them was Willie Wilson, and he ended up being that. Clint Hurdle, that was their golden child for a while, and he made it, but he didn't make it like they thought he would. So I was always the last outfielder to make the team. In AAA, I was the last outfielder to make the team. I didn't start. I wasn't an everyday player. Somebody got hurt, and I got to play, and then it was over. I never got out of the lineup and had a good year in Omaha in AAA, and so happened when the Royals, and they didn't bring me up at the end of '76, which would have been smart for at least them to give me a little taste in the big leagues and see me for a month. They didn't even have to play me there in the middle of a pennant race, but just to get a feel for me, but they didn't do that. So when I went to camp in '77, spring training, Whitey Herzog had never seen me. I knew some of the guys on the team. I played with guys like Al Collins and Tom Poquette and Brett and Frank White. I knew them from the minors. Steve Boras was the coach. Charlie Lau was the hitting coach. He knew me. So I had some people that, I don't know if they're in my corner, but that at least could tell Whitey that, hey, this is what this guy can and can't do. I think he'll be good, or I won't. I'm sure they probably said good things because I ended up having a real good spring training. I went down there 2 months early on my own and just, was in great shape. And I worked out with the community college and got a lot of hitting in. So when spring training broke, and I was ready to go. I was ready to go.
And we're talking with Joe Zdeb, Kansas City Royals, 1977 to '79 outfielder. He joins us this morning. 2 questions about '77, Joe. Playing for Herzog and recalling your first Major League Baseball game debut. Let's take Herzog. How did Herzog treat you when you first got there?
Good. He was pretty quiet. The team was pretty set. It was a great team from the year before and years before. They had built a really good team. So he was laid back. He was real nice. It was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 days before spring training was over. I still didn't know if I made the team or not. So I asked, Otis and some of the other guys, I said, hey, should I go ask? He goes, hell yeah. Or Hal McRae said, yeah, get in there and ask him. I went into Whitey's office after practice, and I said, hey, Whitey, am I on the team? Am I going north? And he goes, yeah, you're good. You're on. That's the first time I knew. So he was good. Yeah, he was good. And no, Whitey was really good. He was a good manager.
I mean, what a baseball mind, Whitey Herzog. I mean, you can't deny that. No one can. A great manager.
Oh, yeah. He was good. We had a very good team.
Yeah. And now, how about your first game appearance? I believe it came against the Tigers.
Yeah. Well, once again, if I didn't get brought up, the year before that for the last month, so I had never been in a big league stadium other than as a fan. So,
Wow.
Opening day, I'm starting in left field. And of course I was nervous, and there was a little snow on the ground, and that's old Tiger Stadium, and you're taking batting practice, and the ball is echoing through the stadium, kind of like the old time movies you hear, and it's just a massive stadium, with 3 decks all the way around, including the outfield, and I started First time up at bat, I struck out. I couldn't even feel the bat in my hand. And
but in the 4th inning, if I'm not mistaken, you get a single in that game.
Yeah, next at bat, I got a base hit, and they were real nice. They took the ball out and put it in the dugout. So after that, then I kind of was a little more relaxed. And we won the game, so it was fun.
Now 78. I mean the Royals, they're competing against these Yankees that always gave them trouble, and you're on the roster in 78 when the Royals win the American League West title. Yeah,
I was on there for 77 for the playoffs. I started a couple games in the playoffs in Yankee Stadium in 77. We ended up losing in 5 games. That was a real heartbreaker. 78. On the team, didn't get in, they were exciting, fun. New York was, that was at the height of the rivalry between the Royals and Hal McRae going in, knocking off Willie, barreling into Willie Randolph, and there was little bad blood, and it was very exciting.
And talk about your relationship with George Brett, because I know you guys had a relationship even when you left baseball, right? For many years.
Yeah, I've stayed in Kansas City. He's in Kansas City. I helped chair a couple of charity events and golf tournaments, and seen him at golf tournaments or opening day and that kind of thing. And we've always had a good relationship. He's getting tugged on by so many people all the time, especially in a small town like Kansas City. He can't go anywhere without being recognized. And he's been good. He's always been good. He's been good to me since I've known him since high school.
All right, so let's backtrack a little bit to 79, your last season with the Royals. What happened there, Joe? 79. At that time, did you feel that, you're not getting enough playing, exposure? It's time to just leave this organization?
Well, what happened is in 78, in Chicago, and once again, I played the game hard. I'm on third base and ground ball, and there's a play at the plate, and I'm running home. I barrel over the catcher, Bill Naharadny at the time, and I didn't know if I touched home plate or not, and we were both laying on the ground. I stretched my left arm and put it on the plate, and I'm like laying face down, and he didn't know if he's trying to still tag me out. He jumps on my shoulder with the ball, not intentionally, but just trying to tag me out, and he ended up tearing my rotator cuff, and back then there was, there's no arthroscopic surgery or anything like that. They didn't even know what it was. I knew something was wrong, and it's still a little tender now. But I ended up tearing my rotator cuff, and from that point on, I really couldn't swing the bat as well as you need to swing it. So an injury is really what got me out of the game. I tried to, and they didn't have rehab. They had none of that. Nothing.
Right.
Ice it and take some aspirin. That was it. So I tried to play with it and come back with it, but I just couldn't have the bat speed. So that's just kind of why I retired, is because of an injury.
And really, just before that retirement, you really expressed to the Royals that you're not being an everyday player. Trade me to an organization that will give me the chance to play every day. So you requested to go to your hometown Chicago White Sox. Is that correct?
No, I could see the writing on the wall when they brought up Willie Wilson and Clint Hurdle that they had so much money, a lot of money invested in them, that they were going to get every opportunity over me and some of the other, outfielders and it was fine. They were good players, very, very good players. Willie Wilson was an awesome player. I kind of said that, hey, I'm good with the trade. I didn't specifically say the White Sox, but ended up going there. I went to spring training camp and broke with AAA, and I just once again couldn't do it with my shoulder. It just didn't work.
And I have about 4 minutes left with you, Joe. Any stories, memorable stories you can share with the group through your travels, on the bus, on the plane? Any memorable stories that stand out with the team that you can share with us?
Yeah. Let's see. Okay.
That we may not know.
No, I'll give you one. This is a good one. This is a true story. So this was in '77 when I'm a rookie. This is our first trip to New York. And night game, Saturday night in New York. And it's packed. Everybody, no one likes the Royals and blah, blah, blah. So I'm on first base, and I steal second base, and it's a bang-bang play. They call me safe. And timeout, here comes, and I'm standing on second base looking at the Yankee dugout. Here comes Billy Martin. So he comes out of the dugout, and he's flailing his arms, and he takes his hat off, and, you could tell and he comes out, Durwood Merrill's the umpire. He comes out to second base, and he's kicking dirt and stuff like that. And I'm going, wow, this is going to be great. And so he comes up to Durwood Merrill, the umpire, and like I said, he's wailing his arms and screaming, and he goes, hey, Durwood, how's your wife doing? I haven't seen you talk to you in a while. And Darryl goes, yeah, she's doing pretty good. You guys want to have dinner the next time in? And he's still flailing his arms and stuff like that. He said nothing about the call. He was the fans were booing, so he had to make some kind of an effort to, stand up for that I was out, not safe. And he goes back to the dugout, and I look over at Bucky down at shortstop, and Bucky says, welcome to the big leagues.
I didn't ask you about some of your teammates, Hal McRae, Frank White, Darryl Porter. Was Darryl Porter on the team, I think?
Yeah, Darryl Porter was. Yeah, he was a gamer. He was very good. Hal McRae, he played. I wanted to play like Hal. He played, Mike's eye, knocking guys over and didn't take crap from anybody. And Amos Otis was kind of I really looked up to him because he was an all-star center fielder, and here I'm looking in left field, and he was good to me. He was good. He could have ignored me or treated me like crap. He was good. We played we played a lot of poker together at the back of the plane, and but no, he was good. It was just different back then. It's just there's so much more camaraderie. I remember talking to George Brett right towards the end of his career, and I said, "Hey, how's it going?" He goes, "I don't know. It's just not that much fun anymore." He said, "These guys, we used to." After the game, we'd sit around and have a couple of beers in the clubhouse, talk about the game or whatever, or, you get on the bus or you get on the plane, go in the back of the plane, you're playing cards or something. Everybody's kind of, together. He said, no, these guys nowadays, they get on the phone and they call they get on the plane and they're calling their agent, they're getting on their laptop and whatever, He said, it's just different. He said that it's not as fun.
It's so different.
It's such a business.
Totally different. I'm just thinking in my head, Joe. I mean, you were close with George Brett. I mean, what a remarkable hitter. Did he ever give you any? Did Brett ever give you any batting tips? I mean, what a hitter he was. And I got 1 minute left.
Not at all. The go-to guy was Charlie Lau. Charlie Lau was the hitting coach, and like I said, you look over Charlie Lau in between pitches, and look for things, or on in the dugout you're talking about it. So no, George was just George just following what Charlie said, and he wouldn't give advice. I don't think to anybody. No, no, not at all.
Well, listen, I really appreciate your time. This was fun. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. It was fun.
Thank you, Joe. Joe Zdeb, 1977 to 79, Kansas City Royals. Until next week, happy collecting to all.